Make sure to rob your neighbors. Isaiah 6, 7, and 8. Make sure to rob your neighbors. All right, taking some notes. We have the debate about spiritual forms out there speaking for you and inducing symptoms. We perceive that the majority of ailments are from new and old garments. The variety of societies you have in your own soul, meaning you're mixed, Christian virtues, all lead to new and old garments, and that all cramps that you get or ailments are related to the decipherment what the body is trying to do between new and old garments. We perceive that layer by layer, one who is to articulate is actually within layer by layer, growth by growth, that is pre-adolescent, adolescent, and adult growth, and elder growth, several different things. Note, finding an electric signal denotes when one is growing that you are storing memory up and over, so that when you look for an electric signal, you're going to go over one, just to find an electric signal, and then look for the single air transpondent, and then more compressed twice than singled, and should correspond better. We perceive that per layer, for instance, if you talk to an elder growth, the child growth, or child growth to elder growth, it would not correspond as well. But that the communication that they're talking about is also equated with adrenaline, gases that can produce vertebrae on a different segment, and how they correspond with the body. For Merriam's scenario, there are several ways of getting to this compressed unit. That's two clefs in should lead to the fact that even if you were to have a young dispelment, it would be from a double clef, as if it were not using surrounding blockages, surrounding areas that block. You would be closer to the younger portion by doing a double clef, is one way of looking at it. The dispelments at this point would be layered by pre-adolescent, adolescent, adult, and elder, would be at a pre-adolescent growth, and would have to train the mind to use only that propulsion, and equates to adrenaline plus topical or descriptive ideas. You would have to be prepared to not look at your older garments if trying to proceed to the next photon or protein. Also interesting to note is the undergrowth, that is, by the time you have a double clef or have reached a marrow of some sort, or able to pull and draw from its resources, that your growth is really going to not go from the outside to the inside, but from the inner inside spanning outward to take over molecules. Also, we did note in one report that if you're looking at organ production as an electron, and for the case of skinnies, we are looking at the capabilities of following the transpondent of air memory, but having to cleft the air memory into a double clef, and then the electron flows through easily. There are also the components which produce a flatter base, as in dividing between upper and lower torso, which left a flat base and still used air memory. And then, of course, when relocking and rebolting bolts or seals, that from the Bible, New Testament to the Old Testament, we suspect that the purpose of relocking bolts and seals, or even having those there, is to train the body into where it used to be at, so that many of your bolts and seals should correspond and try and look for each other. Therefore, the angels rejoice as a baby is another bolt or lock to seal. And that if that is correct, most of your body is a lock, bolt, and seal ready to correspond with multitudes of locks and seals that it has forgotten. Therefore, you can go to any part of your body and still register an electric bolt, lock, and seal. However, what happens is that they try and rejuvenate organs immediately as soon as you rebolt them, and those organs are electrons, and those electrons follow a destination path. We think it is an air memory, which has to be cleft into two air memories, or look like a seal when it is cleft that hard, and then the electron or organ will pass over smoothly. Then there's the fact that the wax that comes from the cellulite is resembling that which has a double any cleft to bone marrow port, should actually relate to memory, as in one who is just learning, who has no knowledge and is just learning as a baby, or a child, would be like the portions of rebolting and locking. For instance, your organs are being remade, and you would like wiggle your toes and your fingers, and you would see these portions immediately draw into. But after using the silly wax, that you would stay as a baby who has no knowledge, and you would be learning, 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 you would also use this first layer as a pre-adolescent endorphin to kick forward and would still see yourself. However, what we're looking for right afterwards in the silly wax is memory, or the equation of learning for the first time is now a pair of lungs. And those pair of lungs were interesting at air memory growth because, like other air memory growth tests that we had, the rest of the body reflected upon its own air memory sources at that time, which happened to be right after acquainting very new silly wax in the absorption of knowledge or learning for the first time, that afterwards one would look for an air memory tube, happens to be lungs on this one, and yet would refer back to itself and refer back to that air memory port or spot. That's it for now.